Joanne gave me these. Hey Joanne, you wanna know what's funny about this? My fork just came up missing. I don't know where it went. Yeah, I replaced it with a plastic one last time I was here. So she brought me a reusable silverware and straw set. How nice.
Chair, I probably make one. You know what I mean? But I'm not motivated by money, so that's not it. It just has to be cool. You know, like, oh, it's going to go on the center display of the Smithsonian Museum permanently. I'd probably break down and make one.
What if it was Willie Nelson?
Maybe. Now, with that said, if you are interested, I am coming out of retirement to make a chair that I'm donating to a fancy charity ball in East Lansing, Michigan. And I'm going to be making it with you guys. I already have some of it made, but it's walnut. And that's going to go up for auction. And that's like all the fancy people from the state of it. The governor will be there, the senators, celebrities. But again, I'm not doing that because I want to be a chairman. I'm doing that because I want $10 million from the state, and this is going to be a good way to get my name out there. So again, it's not the money that motivates me, it's like the extra stuff.
Will we see the chair here?
I'm going to be making it with you.
If we see a Windsor chair like in the wild, like a library or something, is there any way we could identify it as one that you made? Like you put your name?
Yeah, it's on the bottom. Yeah, so you can flip it over. I have a marker and a stamp and all that. This one's dated 2015.
When was the last chair you sold?
Oh, I don't really know. I can't tell you. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yes, our favorite president, Joseph Robinette Biden. That's his real middle name.
Who that man?
Nikki Haley. I remember we went through this last year where you always say president. I remember the safe bet was saying Oprah. So maybe sure Oprah. You know, she's going to say that.
She's evil too.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yes. Shoot, what can I say? Oh yeah, to add on to that, also making chairs is a very affordable way to get into woodworking. And if you don't like the noise, you don't like the dust, then you're going to realize we're not going to touch the machines for like weeks, except for bandsaw. Pretty much every chair maker has a bandsaw, but you don't really need any other machine. So you're going to see that you need like 10 tools. That one of the makers, I'll show you, Peter Galbert, he wrote a book on Windsor chair making called the Chairmaker's Notebook, and he breaks down basically the 10 to 15 tools you really need to do the whole process.
Oh, and actually, I have handouts for you too that I'll give you that have a tool list in it. And that's another reason I got into Windsor chairs, because I was super poor, my family was super poor, and it's like, oh, I can do this, and all I had was a Harbor Freight lathe. So people talk shit about Harbor Freight tools. I had a chair that was in the Smithsonian Museum exhibit that I made on a Harbor Freight lathe. So you can get mine if you really want it. So I had a Harbor Freight lathe and a bandsaw. And I was listening to this Ward Esherick thing again this morning. She said, Ward Esherick, the lines between his living space and his workshop were quite blurred. You can ask Dina. My house was my workshop. Yeah.
There are pictures of you in your house.
Yeah. My house was my workshop. This is like sharpening an axe, right? There's like a parable about two guys cutting down trees. One person is going hog wild, The other person takes 2 hours to sharpen his axe, and he says, what are you doing? We have a deadline. And then in the end, the guy that sharpens the axe cuts it down way faster. And the time, moral of the story is to take time to sharpen the axe before you start the work, right? Right now, I'm sharpening your mental axe by doing this exercise that we're going to do. Because it's going to get you in the right mindset to understand how to shape all this wood, okay? And we're going to learn how to make an octagon. And you're going to do it with hand tools. And believe it or not, this is a bit of review from week 1 when you made your hand tool widget. Okay, so first, see that pile of wood right there? That's what you're going to use, that's basswood. In order to make something round, which everything is round on here, you must first create a very good square, okay? And then, you make a very good octagon, okay? And then you can make something round, all right? You just don't start by shooting to make something round here because it's going to end up looking like this, like that. You don't want that. You want it to be a nice, even round, so there's a process to getting that. And it's a 3-step process. It's square, octagon, round, all right? Once you learn how to do this, how to create something round without a lathe, then really your creative ability opens up a lot, because then you can create a part that is curved, like this. Oh, can you bring up that wishbone chair? All right, so let's say you wanted that to be round. You can't put that on a lathe, right? So you have to know how to do it with hand tools, and it has to look clean, all right? Or, while he's bringing this up, I'll draw the other part on there. Boom, okay. So you notice this is the Hans Wagner wishbone chair, pretty famous chair, but the top rail there is curved round, just like this. The back arm posts are round, but they're bent like an OG curve. That's shaped, it's not steam bent afterwards. So I'm sure you all want to learn how to do that, right? You want to have those skills, very important. And to learn those skills, it starts by learning how to create a square object round and make it round with hand tools, okay? So super simple, and I'm going to let you guys cheat today. So we start with these rough blocks of basswood, and we're going to make a perfect square. Yesterday, I made everybody do it with a hand plane. I regretted that decision. Go square these up on the machines, okay? And then come up here and we'll continue the lesson on what to do after.
But we were on base. What did you do?
Could you hold your pedestal up? Okay, so Armando's pedestal, it looks like a spiral because he made the irises look like a spiral. A spiral is like an edge that will make shadows, basically. And that's what's going on. So anywhere there's an eris, it casts a shadow. In this particular case, there's 4 erises on a square, okay? So we're gonna turn this into 8 erises. Does anybody know what an 8? Oh yeah, I already said this. It's an octagon. Okay.
An eris?
Eris. A-R-R-I-S. We're gonna be using a lot. There's lots of erises. That's an eris, that's an eris, that's an eris. These are erises. It's kind of like a defining detail. It doesn't necessarily have to be 90 degrees either, okay? And actually, the work that you looked at today, Wart and Escherich, was like a master at work in those erises. Like his chamfers, his tables just had chamfers on it, but his chamfers like moved throughout the piece to make it look like it had motion. And the Windsor chairs have that as well.
So is an eris like a facet, but may incorporate a twist?
It could. It's like on the Windsor chair, so this is an eris. See, this is a very defining characteristic all the way around. That's an eris. It goes into other erises. It's basically a transition between 2 surfaces. Does that make sense?
It's not the face, it's the edge.
It's the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right here.
Yeah, 2 facets meet.
Correct. Yeah.
To make it.
Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways on how to solve an octagon, because you might actually think we're going to put some layout lines on this board, and you might think, well, you just split this up into thirds, right? And then that's your board. Are we down to 2 colors? Here we go. I got blue right here. And then you're gonna put some layout lines, right? You're gonna mark this off, and then you're gonna use your square to drag those layout lines down the edge, and basically just connect that material. So it's a controlled chamfer, okay? Does that make sense? But I'm gonna show you the proper place to put these, because you might think that you divide it into thirds and you don't. If you do divide it into thirds, your 8 facets on the octagon will not be equal anymore. So first I'll show you how to do it geometrically. Okay? Okay, so if we take a square, like we have here, and then we find the center of the square by going from corner to corner, like so. Boop. Then we'll go this way, like that. So we found the center, and then we take a compass and we go from the corner to the center, like so, and then we scribe that here, scribe that here, we'll go to this corner, scribe that here. Boom. Boom. Close enough. That's how you lay out a perfect octagon. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? And then essentially you just connect those points and you'll make the octagon. Now, just for shits and giggles, let's talk about the math of this. Get my marker out here. So, what this formula ultimately boils down to, after you use algebra to move some numbers around and whatnot, we're going to call this dimension D for like diameter or depth, okay? It's D, or actually I should say, this distance from this point, we'll call that X. X equals D times 0.2929. Okay? Now, what you giggling about?
The math loses me. I was like, the octagon is determined by the relationship of the corners to the center, yes?
The math is too, yeah.
Yes, I'm laughing because I get so lost when I see numbers, but conceptually I understand what's happening, but now I'm like...
Yeah, and that's why I'm showing a couple different ways to do it. And this is your ultimate answer, right? What's your diameter or your depth times 0.2929? You can use your phone for that. But just real briefly, I'll show you how we get to this. Does anybody think they can solve it?
From here?
Yeah.
You do X,
You don't need to know D.
X over D. Is that what you mean? X over D equals 0.2929.
How we came to this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's okay. You don't need to know. Okay, so we have a triangle, right? And we know that the distance from here to here is equal to here to here. Okay? Any light bulbs yet? So we know how to solve. We know how to solve for triangles, right?
Pythagorean theorem.
What's the hypotenuse? Hit me.
C squared.
Yeah, but hit me with the formula.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yep. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, or another way to say this is the square root of A squared plus B squared. Okay? C equals. Okay, well, this is A, this is a B, right? But they're the same thing, they're both D because it's a square. So we can say D squared plus D squared, and we only need half of that, right? Because we're measuring from this distance to this distance. So we divide by 2, all right? And then that gives us this dimension, which we could use that dimension, but we actually want this dimension. Does anybody know how to get to that?
Which one?
So I'll just do it real quick. 1 minus this formula.
Equals D, or equals X.
Is that for X, that little section?
Yes, that's for X. X equals, yep. Okay, you know, we're not testing, this isn't a math class, but I just wanted to show you how I got there. And really what I'm trying to show you is that triangle geometry works in everything. You can solve a lot of stuff with it, okay? Actually, I have some handouts that I forgot to give you. I'll go grab them right now, but there's also some triangle geometry in that. You don't really need to know it, but it kind of shows the why behind why we're doing stuff. It's not just one article on chair legs, it's a bunch of articles. There's like a tool list in there. There's instructions on how to build one of these shave horses with plans. There's an article about steam bending, so on and so forth. So, I'm going to erase this. And actually, I forgot to say, once you use some algebra to move these numbers around, so it'll go from this to the square root of 2 over 2, which ultimately gives you this distance, right? 0.2923. So math is important, and I wish I would have paid more attention in class. X equals D times 0.2929.
Just need a better brand than that.
So what I want you to do is, can I see your piece, Tyler? I want you to figure out where those points go, okay, by using the easiest method that I taught you. Which one is that? D times 0.2929. Okay, you can do that in your calculator. Then use your square and pull lines all the way down. Okay? Then you're going to use your hand plane and just connect those lines. Make it nice and even. all the way around. Then you'll have an octagon, and then we'll move on from there. What? Yeah, D times 0.2929. You can if you want to. I wouldn't say it's better, but it's faster. Yeah. Would you like to see it? You're all still a little bit confused. So let's say the D dimension was 10. 9. Okay, and that would be, anybody know this one? 10 times 0.2929? Move the decimal over one place. So in this case, this line would be 2.9 inches from the side. Fuck, I lost everybody. I shouldn't have talked about the math. All we're doing is making an octagon, everybody.
Just cutting off the edges.
Multiply by 0.2929. That's how far you need to be off.
Exactly. Whatever the width of your square is times 0.2929.
Everyone watched? Good.
Let me do that. So I
Good. I'm not the only one.
Was that 30 seconds? 30 seconds. So
I would have thought that.
2.875.
Yeah, there we go, 7/8. That. So 2.875, that's 2 and 7/8,
Yep.
times 0.2929
Yep.
equals
0.842.
0.842. And in my mind, I'm like, that's a moose hair above three quarters.
Yeah.
So we'll go here. There's 3/4. There's a moose hair. Booyah. Then just get on here and pull that line all the way down. You'll need 8 lines. Another
Flying dog! Mathematical! What? Algebraic! Mathematical! Perpendicular, it's the mama! Rhombus.